Hello, my beautiful people. Life has been quite good, and I want to talk about why. I feel like I've made a few changes in my life, and I also realize that periods of life are like this, they continue to change. Sometimes things feel very amazing, and sometimes things feel a bit rough. But these are just the things that right now have been working for me. And I'd like to share them with you. So, number one is just getting incredibly organized. I've gone through quite a few stages in my life where I've been like getting organized, but in a way, I was just getting basics organized. Like when I was moving out of my old house, yes, I was spending a lot of time organizing, but it wasn't actually my life getting organized. It was actually my life getting less organized as I moved things into storage units. But this is the first time when I'm like, I know all the belongings I own. I know where they belong. I know what belongs in my knapsack. Everything has a place, and that's really lovely. And technology-wise as well, everything has a system. Things belong on certain hard drives. There's 2 hard drives. Everything gets backed up. I know where they're kept. I know what to do with things on my desktop. I know how I get rid of them. I have these systems in place, and these systems are really beautiful because I find that like when you don't. Before, I was constantly disorganized by normal day-to-day things. I'd be like waking up and I'd be like, why is everything a mess? Why is everything always a mess? But now I know that like when I come home, I take everything out of my knapsack and I put it away where it belongs. And I'm sorry if that sounds basic, it might, but for me it wasn't. I didn't have those habits in place. I'd maybe put my clothes on my chair, and that creates mess. But now I know that it's better for me in the future just to put everything away as it's done, and creating systems, basic systems like underneath it all, so you know where everything goes, you know where you want it to be. I find it a lot easier to keep up with these things because it kind of motivates you, and you know the result of not keeping up with it. That's been very, very lovely. And I think another thing that's been very good recently is just having super clear boundaries. And I wonder how this is gonna like go in a bit of time. I've been home for a little over a month, and I've been pretty like I've been pretty private, and I don't mean like I've disappeared. But I have been mostly hanging out with people when it has to do with auditions, like acting stuff, meeting up to talk, anything creative. And I don't mean by any sense that you can only have creative friends. I had some friends, a good friend of mine, my roommate last year who moved away. He wasn't creative, but he was very innovative, and that really inspired me as well. And you could just have friends to have friends, obviously. But I do feel I'm in a period right now where I'm kind of like when people are like, I'm gonna spend 6 months getting focused and then I'll like come back to reality. I'm kind of in one of those periods. I don't have a ton of rules in regards to it, but I've been home for about a month and a half, and when work finishes, I go home. Somebody asks me to go out, I say no. I pretty much am completely revolving my life right now around my art and getting ahead and getting into a place that makes me proud. And there are some exceptions to that. I go to my grandma's a lot, and that's really, really lovely. So I think just also learning what your boundaries are and learning how easy it is to say no and how people respect you when you do just makes it so much easier as well. Okay, the final thing is just, if you do it, it's done. And what I mean by that is, if there's something on your mind to do, I, in my life, have always had this voice saying, is this the most important thing you should be doing right now? Is there something else you could be doing? And the answer to me is that you choose something and you do it and you get it done. There is no right thing. I mean, there are some things that are maybe a bit more urgent, but if you live with that mentality, these projects that are maybe very important to you will always be unprioritized, So I'm like, Kalyna, I'm not gonna get cheesed at what you decide to do. I'm gonna get cheesed if you decide to spend too much time thinking about what you're gonna do. because that's a freaking waste of time, man. So just make the decisions quicker. And I think before as well, I think I struggled more with finishing projects at the time. I don't really know. I know I was working hard at the time as well, so I can't really judge where I was at in the past. But I feel that I can finish things pretty fast right now and have an intention and actually have that intention come into fruition, which has been a very lovely thing to watch happen in my life. Beep, 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 beep. Yeah, so I think, yeah, like just an example. For a long time, I had an idea of having, I've been writing books, having a store for my one book that I've kind of published. I don't know if I've published it. I got it into a small bookstore and I printed it. I haven't like legitimately published it, but I was like, I want a store with this on it, and I want a link tree, and I want a website where I can share this stuff. And in my head, I was just like, that's a lot of work and it might be useless, you know? Like, is this something you really need to do? But it was becoming more and more relevant. People asking me for a portfolio, me just wanting to show people shit, me wanting to have an easy way where people can access my work. So I did it. And then that voice comes after it's done. And also, it didn't take me too long. So that's really lovely. And there's a few steps I'm still kind of dabbling in, but you know, it's out. But this voice being like, was this the most useful way you could be spending your time? And then I say to myself, have you ever had a website before? And I did, a very bad one that I never took seriously about 5 years ago. But for the most part, no. Do you have one now that you'll have for the rest of your life that you can use and add to if that feels important to you? Yes. If this is useless and you come to that conclusion, which I don't think I will, because I like it, but won't you know more now that it's done? Now you don't need to have this voice in your head anymore. Should I have a website? Yeah, it's here. When you do useless things, you sometimes learn that they're useless. But it's so much easier to learn that once it's done and you can see the results of what you're doing and you can navigate, hey, is this how I want my time to be spent? And then drop it. So I just think I'm getting work done very fast, which is keeping me motivated and inspired. Well, before these projects were so long that I was frustrated all the time. So I'm just like now living with this mentality like, you want to do it, just get it done, you know? So those are kind of the 3 things I've been living by right now that I feel have been really benefiting my life. Getting incredibly fucking organized. 2, just having good boundaries, knowing how to say no, focusing on yourself and what you want. And when you start a project, just commit to it. Less self-talk, just commit to what you're doing, finish it. Choose something, do it. That's all for today. Thank you for listening. Bye for now.